Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my February 2025 TBR. January, I read a ton of books because I had the weirdest set of circumstances happen. I'll talk about that more in my reading review. That meant that I was just able to read a ton of books, way more than I anticipated. And so I have quite a few books on the list for February as well. I don't know how many I'll get to. Some of them I might actually have gotten to in January, but anyway, I'm really excited. I have 12 books to talk about. I have one new release, the first new release of the year to talk about, and then I have 11 books that are actually on my shelves. So the one new release I plan to read is the new Star Wars novel, Star Wars Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear, and this is written by Alexander Freed. And while I didn't like his Alphabet Squadron trilogy, I did really like his Rogue One novelization, and apparently this is supposed to be heavily influenced by the Andor TV show, and we're getting Andor Season 2 very soon. So I'm very excited to read that book, and that is the new release that I plan to read this month. Let's get to the other 11 books on my shelf. So I have, continuing on with the Space Excursion science fiction series, I have Onto the Asteroid. This is by Les Johnson and Travis Taylor. This is the second book in their duology that is called the Space Excursions duology. The first book was Back to the Moon, which I have my review up on the channel for, and I loved that book. And so I'm so excited to continue on with the series with Onto the Asteroid. And it's like a 400-page book, so it's not terribly long, but it should be fun to read. All right, I also am continuing on another duology, and that's the Star Wars MedStar Jedi Healer book, which is the second book in the MedStar duology. I didn't particularly care for the first book in this duology, but maybe this one really works for me. Maybe this one will really pick up. So I'm interested in reading this, and this is also a pretty short book. It's only about 300 pages, so I should breeze right through it as well. I also have a Star Trek book, the second book in the Gateways series. I am reading this for Literary Treks. I'm a co-host on there, and we're reading through the Gateways series. We did book 1 in January. We're doing book 2 in February. This is not as short as book 1, but still. And this will be my first time reading anything but with Challenger by Diane Carey. I've read the other Star Trek series, most of them, but I have not read Challenger. I've also not read the New Frontier series, which that's coming up in the Gateway series, so I'm excited to get to these. So that's the second book in this series. I also plan to read the second book in the Accursed Kings series, titled The Strangled Queen. This is by Maurice Druon, and I absolutely loved book 1 in this series. Book 1 was so good. And so my review of that is already up. And this book, I'm really excited to get to this, because this is a historical fiction series. It's kind of touted as being the original Game of Thrones, which I totally understand why. And it's really good. It's a really good series, so I'm really excited to read this one. And this is also pretty short. I'm also planning to read the second book in a fantasy trilogy. You notice a lot of seconds here. But this is the book Elegy for a Lost Star, which is a fantasy novel. This is part of the Symphony of Ages, the second trilogy. I thought the first book was just okay, but maybe this book will really make it much better. And this one's pretty short; it's only about 400 pages. But so for a fantasy novel, that's really short. But we'll see how much I enjoy this one. So it's Elegy for Lost Star, which I love that royal cover. That royal cover is just gorgeous. I love it so much. With the woman, with the baby, with the dragon in the background, it's so cool. All right, mixing it up. Going to a standalone book, I have John Grisham's The Racketeer, which is a legal thriller. I go into every John Grisham book blind, and so I'm not going to know what's in this book, but it's a thriller book by him, and I'm excited to read it. It's only got about 400 pages, so it's, for him, about average size. So I'm excited to read this one, The Racketeer. I also have, this one's pretty short, but I'm really excited about it, and that is the book Salvage Fleet by Kevin Steverson. This is the second book in the Salvage title trilogy. I read the first back in like September, and I really enjoyed it. And so I got books 2 and 3 for Christmas, and so I'm planning to read book 2. This is an indie published series. It's through Theogony Press, which is part of Chris Kennedy Publishing. So I'm really excited to delve into this one, and it's a really short book, so I should be able to knock this one out pretty fast. And I love that cover. It's a fun cover. Staying in the science fiction genre, I'm starting a new science fiction trilogy from a series I'm familiar with, and that is Dune: The Butlerian Jihad, the first book in that trilogy. This is from Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson. I know there's a ton of people who hate their writing. I love their writing. I read a short story collection of theirs that I didn't love earlier in January, but this novel is a pretty beefy one. This is one of the longer books I'm reading this month. It's about 700 pages. But when they're novels, like I've read 6 other Dune novels from them, and I loved all of them, so I'm sure I'll enjoy this. And this is about the whole Machine Crusade stuff, so I'm excited to get to this one. I also plan to read... It's fantasy, sci-fi, pulp. It's the Monster Hunter series, Monster Hunter Alpha. I've read the first 2 books in the main series last year, and as well as one of the spin-offs, one of the Monster Hunter memoirs books. And I'm continuing on with the series with Alpha this month. I enjoy this series. It's a fun series. Is it the most deep series? No, but it's a fun, action, pulpy adventure, and I enjoy Larry Correia's writing. And apparently enjoyed defending his weird acknowledgments because other people weren't. Anyway, I'm excited to get to this one and see how it goes. Brian Lee Durfee just reviewed the 2nd book last month, so I'm hoping that he reads the 3rd book this month and he and I can talk about it. I'm also planning to read this is a very different genre for me, but this author reached out to me and sent me a copy of his book. This is the book titled God's Country by J.T. Ringo. This is a self-pub Western, just straight up Western. I don't think it has any other elements. I've read fantasy Westerns, I've read mystery Western type stuff. I've never just done straight up Westerns, so we'll see how this goes. The author reached out, thought if I'd be interested in reading it, and I'm putting it on the schedule for February, and hopefully I'll love it. I'm hoping I do. I really hope I enjoy it. That's about all I know about the book, though. I haven't really looked too much at it. The last book I plan to read is the next omnibus collection of One Piece. It is volumes 4 through 6. It's continuing the East Blue arc. The first book I read in 2025 was the first 3 volumes, which take me a surprisingly long amount of time to read because there's so much to them. I thought they were great, the first 3 volumes. So I'm excited to read the next 3, and of course I have the entire East Blue saga to read this year. I'll plan to finish it up in April, and then we'll see if I continue on with One Piece or go on to other stuff, but I absolutely am loving it so far, and I'm hoping I'll be able to enjoy this one as well. So that is the last book on my list to read. Now, it's not the last one I'm going to read. That is, I'm probably going to read this first, like on February 1st, and knock it out. But we'll see. We'll see what order I read the rest in. So those are all the books I plan to read in February 2025. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts on them. If you have any books that you're reading in February, let me know. If you're interested in becoming a channel member where you get weekly updates, you got to see videos and see reviews before other people do, that type of thing, go become a channel member. Consider it if you want to. If not, just become a subscriber and you'll see the videos when they come up for everyone. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.